Studies show that marijuana users have more empathy than non-marijuana users. It's probably because the people who use cannabis have properly maintained endocannabinoid systems. In fact, if you're not using cannabis and you have an endocannabinoid system, it's because you're a deadbeat. So stop being a deadbeat and do the right thing and use cannabis, okay? Also in news, High Times puts out an old report where people looked at data from a bunch of different studies and determined that cannabis use while pregnant may be bad for the baby. It might cause low birth weight and other problems for pregnancy. The problem is the data is highly skewed. It's not the first time the data has come to the surface. In fact, it came from Canada. They were looking at a bunch of people before Canada had legal cannabis who would admit to using cannabis and wouldn't use other drugs. There was no sort of test to see if they were accurately telling the people what drugs they had used. It was only what they were willing to admit. And everybody knows that cannabis is a pretty easy thing to admit because it's just cannabis. No big deal. The report does say it may be dangerous for moms who are having babies to be using cannabis. So maybe moms who are having babies who like cannabis should consider the article and the studies that they're using to make this silly headline. Also in news, New Hampshire's Cannabis Committee is very divided. Most of the members are actually very anti-cannabis, including the leader Daryl Abbas, who's reminding the members that they're not here to debate whether cannabis should or shouldn't be legal, but how they would roll it out if they were to do so. They're looking at a couple of different models. One of them is where the state actually runs the entirety of the cannabis operation and gets vertically integrated, grows the cannabis and sells the cannabis in state shops. Another means they might employ is where they have their own farmers in the state growing cannabis to be sold by franchise type shops, which all share the same marketing and sort of logo and everything else throughout the state. And that might be good. They're saying they might be able to bring in $250 million in cannabis sales, which would bring a lot of tax to the state. They're looking at a 15% tax on that cannabis to be competitive with states like Massachusetts, Maine, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Canada, New York. New Hampshire's been the live free or die state, I guess, but really it hasn't been very free, and people have died a lot because they haven't had access to cannabis. And cannabis, as everybody knows, is life-saving medicine. Hopefully for the people of New Hampshire, they'll have access to cannabis sooner than later. And instead of live free or high, they can all just live free happily ever after. Thanks for watching The Wash Daily.